Hi guys, welcome. Welcome to my chat. I'm thinking my TV might be too loud here. Hi Tom.
See, I don't see you on YouTube yet.
I just came on. See if it so when I went to start on it said that my YouTube there's Mike. It said that my YouTube was deleted. So let's
Yeah, it
see.
still says, yeah, it
Let's
still
see
says waiting.
what could be the problem here. Let me click some buttons. Um Invite.
I gotta get better lighting in here.
You on YouTube. Let's see if this is going to work. How about that?
Let me do a refresh. No.
Sting that like button.
I'm
Hi,
at,
Lee. Hi, Lee. Yeah, we can see you and you can hear me, right? Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. Um, so Lee's here. Hi, Mike. Tom, I didn't know you were on last night. You came on at 8 o'clock. I didn't know.
yeah, I didn't figure out how to do a notice and till halfway through it. So
Yeah,
I was
it gets
learning the rope.
confusing.
I was learning the ropes.
Yeah, and then when I went to go on live, it said that my YouTube was deleted. Well, I don't think I did that. I don't know how I did that. There's Louis making his appearance in the background.
Yeah, let me pull up YouTube again.
Just make sure you mute it. What's going on, Lee? You had
Oh
like
yeah, it's working.
100 days of working round the clock, 7 days a week. I don't know if that's over yet or if you're still involved in that, still working out that startup or ramping up, I think. I think that's what you were doing. Um,
Anyway,
so what do we want to talk about? I went into my hives today. I had my mentee over and it was not a good day to go in, but we did go check out some things. It was like 42 degrees, nice and sunny. Hi, short pants. Oh, he's finished with that job, taking a break. Okay, Lee. So we went into the hives and we didn't go crazy, just checked the feed on top. I did come across what I thought was a dead out. I mean, it was actively dying. Like I don't know what to say about this hive. It had open brood, it had fresh eggs, it had bees, but the bees were not moving. And it kind of looked like that package, Tom. You know, that package
yeah,
that you put
okay.
on, it looked like that,
Yeah,
but in a hive. Yeah. So I just put on some carbs on the top, some Hive Alive fondant. I had some sugar and I just closed them back up again because I mean the worst thing I did was open it. That was the worst
right.
thing I did for that hive was open it. But I was curious, you know, it was a small hive, it was a small colony, 3, 4 frames. But I wanted to look at everybody today. Um, some I didn't pop the inner covers. I just looked inside the rapid rounds. I used this rapid rounds on top. Um, and then some I did pop the inner cover. I wanted to see if they would boil out at me or not. And some did and some didn't. So it's
Right.
just all over the board. It's
I
just
didn't
all,
get
yes.
in. I made 3 lids today. I was going to make 4, but I don't have enough. I have to make some more 2-inch trim pieces. I'm making micro telescoping lids.
Migratory? Mi-
No telescoping lids. All 4 sides.
okay.
Because
The
we've been
outer.
getting I get so much wind being on top of the small mountain hill. So
Hmm.
I decided, and I got them all spaced now, 30 inches from entrance to entrance. So I decided I'm going to go with telescoping type lids and swapping them out.
Yeah, I had a couple years ago, 3 years ago, I guess I bought about 10 of those migratory covers from Bob Binney.
Yeah,
And the lids are great. But they're just not right for my yard. Like you were saying, your yard's too windy. Mine's not windy, but they're just not a good match. Now I do use them. I use them in the summer. Um, but I guess those inner covers are meant to be used, or migratory covers are meant to be used without an inner cover. And I use them with an inner cover. So maybe that's what I'm doing wrong. And that's why they're not running flush. Hey, Bundy. So I'd like to get rid of them, but I don't know. Just don't have a market for it up here, I guess.
yeah. I got a couple lids that are getting kind of old that I made 8 years ago, and
Hmm.
I made them cheap with 1/2 inch instead of 3/4 inch. So I'm replacing them eventually.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah,
did
I
today.
some of my boxes are 8 years. I need to paint again because I've never really painted. I painted the first time, or I do wax dipped. It's 50-50 down there between wax dipped and painted. So I really need to repaint the ones that were painted. Hey, Russell.
Hey, Russell. Yeah. So that's about all new with me. They got my neighbor Mike. He did pick up his 3 packages today that I picked
Mm-hmm.
up for him. So those weren't mine. And I was looking at them this morning. I said, "Man, that's a perfect example of what the bees do inside of a hive during the winter time. They do not
Yep.
move. And if they don't have food, they're starved on them, in them,
Yeah.
covering the frames.
Well, it's exactly what I saw in that one hive today and they have feet on top, but if they don't move up for it, they're done.
Right.
Hi, Grayson. So you were the first one on my signing in. These guys, they sign in on the YouTube hours
Yeah. Yeah. I
before
was eating dinner at six o'clock. So I just finished. Oh,
so what
nice,
else?
Lee. Where you going hiking?
Yeah. I had my drone class, what it would have been last Tuesday, I guess. And I just read another scientific article. This class is a little heavier than I really wanted it to be. But we talked more about pesticides, and seems
Oh,
like the damage, I don't know, I feel like I'm repeating myself on this one, but the damage is done when they're in the cell. That's where they get the
right.
most damage. It's not after they emerge. It's the wax in the cell. So keeping
Or what they're feeding them,
that
pesticides
old
in the
dark
food.
wax. in the brood chamber where the drone cells is the most damaging, the most toxicity from bad things, pesticides or whatever else is going on in the environment is held in that wax. So if
Right.
you're keeping brood frames for 8, 9, 10 years, I know some guys keep it 10 years. You could really be hurting your drones while they're being formed.
I think the same thing's happening with queens. I think queens are getting
What?
affected because they don't last. They don't last more than 2 years now. I have a queen that I did 4 years ago, and she's already filled up two frames, two deep boxes, and she's 4 years old.
Hi, Bill. Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
wouldn't even know what to do with a 4-year-old. I have never had a 4-year-old queen.
Well, I don't
I
have it.
can't.
I gave it to my friend, and
Mhm.
she has it. She lives about a mile from me. She needed it 2 years ago. She needed brood. And I said, I got a queen that will crank out brood faster than you'll be swarming on you. And she called me back 2 weeks later. She goes, 3 weeks later, she goes, you won't believe how much brood this already has in the box. I said, yep. And she called me just 2 days ago, told me, it's too cold, but I need to split that box. Can I split them at 45 degrees? I said, if you're taking a whole box, split them because they're going to swarm.
Um,
So I
yeah,
told her to
queens.
go ahead and split them.
I don't. I sell my queens out because overwintered nukes are attractive up here in the Northeast. So they want an
Right.
overwintered queen, a proven overwintered queen. So until I sell those out, and then that first hit of people that can't find the queen or just want a queen, then they sell out the rest of the overwinter queens with that, and then requeen with summer solstice. So like I don't think I don't think there's any pink. I red. I used red and pink that year. I don't think there's any red or pink. Um,
Well, I'm going over there
Queen.
on the 7th. When I graft her on the 17th, I'm going to go over there and take a frame of her eggs and larvae to graft from. So I'm going to work that out. So I graft from her when she was 1 year old. I'm going to graft her from her when she's 4 years old.
Look what the cat drug in.
Hey,
Yep.
Bill. Sorry I missed you Monday. I was busy with my class. Time it was over, it was 9:30, and I said,
Yeah. That's all right. I know people have
it went,
things to do.
yeah, it went long.
Yeah,
I want
it's
to say
been a
hi to
very
Brian and hi to Bill Lee, Lucky Lee.
Hey,
yeah.
Brian.
And
So
Russell, Mike, Bundy. How's everybody tonight?
Mm.
I have to confess, 2 weeks ago, I checked my big hive, and I didn't think I saw any capped drone cells. But I have drones flying in and out of hive
Mm.
yesterday and today. A little
Really?
bit today. Got up to 54. So I
Now,
missed them.
wait, did you say that they were flying or walking?
They were flying.
Drones. Could they be somebody else's?
Unless I don't think so. I mean, I watched two or three of them go in and out of the same box, a big hive.
Yeah, because drones will just go in anywhere. They'll go
I
into
know.
any hive, any colony, anywhere. They're
Yeah,
nomads.
free load for a while.
So
Yeah.
came from maybe could have came from one of my other hives, but I checked all of them and I didn't. I had drone cells, but they weren't capped. At least
Well
that's what I
then
thought. I
then
missed it.
you don't have flying drones today
I know,
if they
but
weren't even
I must have
capped.
missed them.
I
I
Go
got
from
through the
somebody
frames
else.
pretty quick, so I probably missed it.
Yeah, I was in hives on Saturday, and I started seeing walking drones, and I counted a dozen or more on one frame. So it's time.
Nowhere near.
Yeah. I'm setting my
Nowhere near.
cell builder tomorrow. It's Thursday.
Yep.
Tomorrow.
Jeez.
Oh, it's supposed to be cold tomorrow. So maybe Friday. it's
So here's a
only supposed to go
question
up to
for you.
50.
So I have a question for you.
Okay.
One of my mentor lives about 15 minutes from me, closer to the city, and she's in a neighborhood with a fence, and you know, she's got a way different environment than I do out here. And she has walking drones, flying walking drones. She has queen cells. She's already demaried. So her yard is like a month ahead of me. So this is my question. Can I take 5 frame colonies? Let's see. I don't have any queens. So how can I boost my yard from her yard? Like,
You can take a
can
frame of
I
cap brood.
or open
Yeah,
can I take okay, can I take a five frames down there with fresh eggs, no queen, and set a couple colonies on her property? She'll let me do it. Like, that's not an issue. But how long, so to do the math, would that gain me anything? I guess what I'm asking is would
They're
that
gonna make
gain me?
emergency.
So
They're gonna make
right.
emergency queen cells.
So what's the date today? The 9th.
yeah.
Let's
It's going to
tease
be at
this out.
least 7 days before they do that.
So we'll add 8 days just for shits and giggles. So it'd be 8. So
That'd be the
that's
17th.
the 17th. Then we put in another 14 days. Well, 16.
That would
16.
be the 3rd of May.
There you go. Hold on.
3rd of May to hatch out,
Okay. So
and
let's go to
then
May here, May 3rd.
and
Then we
then
have another 14.
3 to 5 days before they're going to go on a mating flight.
We'll say 7. So it's May
Right.
7th.
Yep. And then they're gone for up to 14 days.
So that's May 28th.
No, it's May 21st.
Yeah.
21st. 21st.
And then it's going to be when they get back on the 21st, if they get mated, they won't start laying until between the 24th and the 26th.
26th.
So you're not really gaining anything.
Yeah.
You're better off taking your colonies and throwing some super fuel on them and building them that way.
Yeah.
And get that queen kicked off real good and let her.
They won't. They're not. The weather has been so I had a little flow about 2 weeks ago, and they started taking off. They were geared up, the maples popped. It was like we were on. And then all of a sudden we just came to a stop, and they went the other direction.
You're near Chester,
The hives at
Pennsylvania, right?
Montgomery. Yeah, but
Montgomery.
Chester's a little more south than me, so go north. Go to I'm all well, I'm north of Philly, so I'm not Allentown. I'm not. There's a distinct line of
Yep.
mountains that are between me and Allentown. I'm below that line. The turnpike line is what we call it, and it's a distinct weather
What's the biggest town
difference.
close to you?
Um,
Harleysville.
Harleysville. I am Harleysville. I'm in Harleysville.
Nancy, how
So
many frames of brood do you have in your hives?
anywhere from like the little ones are just like 2 frames, and then the bigger ones are, I run 8 frames, so the bigger ones are maybe 4. I have some double deeps. I was forced into double deeps back when
And
that flow
what you
hit.
can
So
do, this is part of my swarm brood management. But if you got 4 frames of brood, take a comb frame that has comb on it. Plastic
Mhm.
foundation doesn't work, and put that
no,
in
I got comb. I
between.
got a lot of drawn comb. Hmm.
Put it in between those 4 brood frames. So you got two
Yep.
brood frames, a brand new frame with a
Yep.
comb on it, and then two
Yep.
brood frames.
And she'll lay
She'll
it
go in
up.
that lay and she'll lay that frame right up.
Yep.
And then in 4 to 5 days, do the same thing. Because it takes 4 days, it'll take about 4 days for her to lay that frame up.
Hmm.
And she's a good queen. So in four
So I
days, you can
kind
go back in there and put another comb frame in. If she doesn't lay that frame up in 4 days, and only half of it's in 4 days, she's you might want to question that queen.
Yeah, definitely.
When is your flow? So Ryan, so I had a flow 2 weeks ago. My maples popped, but then we went cold. It has been so cold. The only time that it's
Yeah,
warm is it's pouring.
Yeah,
It's
your
there's
nighttime
been
temperatures are what's killing you, Nancy.
yeah. So
You're,
they were on,
me
Ryan.
too.
They turned on, and now they are off.
yep.
So I kind of did a little bit with Tom. So what I did was I put so I have a deep. I took the medium completely off. I have a deep, and then I put a second deep. So I put in the drawn comb above her. So they kind of did a TP type thing. But
Right.
I can't I can't even, I don't even want to crack the hives to manipulate frames. Like, I pulled that one out that wasn't moving today and showed my mentee just, what a dying, actively dying hive looked like, whatever. And I killed it. I killed it today. I completely killed it. I'm sure of it. Because it's 45 degrees. It had open brood.
If,
Yeah,
if,
see,
if,
I'm looking at your weather forecast for the rest of this month and next month, Nancy, and you've got 30s and 40s at night.
Yep.
You might get some 60s during the day, 40s to
Barely, right? And
60s
then it
during
then
the
it's
day.
nosedives at night. So the
Yep,
60 isn't even worth it. Like
right.
it's wasted.
Yeah, you're not really going to have any good temperatures until the second full week of May. Starting May the
Where
11th.
Yeah,
yeah,
and where was I? So with that being said, let's go back to my first question about taking frames down to my girlfriend's. So I'm not even gonna kick off here till, what'd you say, May what?
You're not going to have any decent weather until May 11th.
May 11th. And then that scenario that we walked through had decent brood on the 26th of May. So it's
Yeah,
11, it would gain me 11 days, so to speak. Hey,
yeah.
Philip.
hey Nancy, let's back up a second. Let me add something too. I
Yep.
just checked the black locust trees in my area today.
Ooh.
Typically, they bloom the second to third week of April, like right about now, the next week.
Yep.
Sometimes late in the third week, but they don't even have buds on them yet. So they're not even close to blooming. So
Yeah.
they're going to be at least 2 or 3 more weeks before they bloom. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking they're going to bloom like in May, early
Yeah.
May or
And
very
it's
end of
going to be
this.
a very short bloom. Mine are starting to
Hmm.
bud. The black locust here are starting to bud up.
Okay,
But the later they bloom, the shorter the bloom.
right. But what I'm saying though, spring is slow this year.
Yep.
Yeah.
So your hives might not, they might be big enough by the time the flow really starts.
Yeah. because your
'Cause
flow will
everything's relative, right?
yeah.
Everything's relative. They're slow, spring's slow.
Yep.
So,
Right.
so the other thing is I'm thinking this year, I'm thinking, I had quite a few dead outs. Like I've never had dead outs like this before. And I planned it. I kind of planned it a little bit. I did, but I didn't. I mean, that drought really threw me for a loop. But and that's why I just don't feel like feeding. I usually feed in the spring. Like now, I'd be feeding to pull wax,
Hmm.
and get some wax, some supers like Ryan's super bionic bees over there at Peabody. But
Yep.
I don't need any. I just don't. I have so many frames of pulled comb, so and I just not into feeding again. I mean, I just fed and fed and fed. So I don't know. Maybe this year I'm just going to build my bees, keep them healthy, get good queens in there, not worry about honey. Like,
I'm in the same boat with you, Nancy. Most of my hives are not near as big as they normally are this time of year. But then we got a little flow for a week to 2 weeks with the maple trees and the magnolia trees. But now we just had 2 nights in the mid to upper 20s. So there's no flow right now, except for dandelions. Got dandelions everywhere.
Yeah. I know.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
Randy.
Good year
those
for
are nice and strong.
Yeah, it's a good year for dandelions,
Yeah,
at least in
Yeah,
got
my
they're
area.
most of my bees right now have a full super. They filled one full super already.
Wow.
Jesus.
I hadn't even put mine on yet, Bill.
Yeah, I put mine on when the maples popped. I put them on, and I've got 8 to 10 frames of honey in the first super already.
Yours kept going. Once the maples popped, you kept your momentum kept going. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
except for
Okay.
Yeah.
yesterday. Well, for 2 days now.
That's
Today
all
they
right.
started flying again because it was in the 50s here, and they were
Yeah.
flying again. But yesterday and the day before, nothing. They didn't come out of the
Yeah.
box.
Yeah,
So
we just had a whole week where we had one day it didn't rain.
yeah,
We got 8 inches, over 8 inches of rain.
yeah. See,
Yeah,
my
I'm just
concern
thinking
is
that,
with all this rain coming, is it's going to wash everything out.
well, they're gonna consume that nectar that's in that medium. But
Hmm.
yeah, washing, right. So they're gonna get set
Right.
back twice. They're gonna
Yep.
consume because they need a lot of fuel. They're gonna
Yep.
consume that and they're not gonna bring anything new in.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we might catch
I
a
noticed I
catch a
noticed in my hive that
we
my
might.
little flow gave me about two deep frames of wet honey on the
Yeah.
frames. That was about it.
So we dumped 10 packages today in the
Oh,
apiary.
you
Okay,
So
installed
three
them this time?
pounders.
we delivered packages yesterday. You know, mine, all the purchasers got their packages yesterday, and there was 10 that didn't get picked up. And so we dumped those 10 today in hive boxes. And they are the calmest bees so far that I've ever seen. You know, typically when
Hmm.
you start dumping packages, you have all that chaos going on. Not
Mm-hmm.
today. Nope. They were
Huh.
Hmm.
just as calm as they could be. So
Why? Why you
I,
think?
I think it's the type of bee. They came out of
Genetics.
Northwest Georgia. And I think it's the type of bee that we got. And I mean, I was picking workers up with fingers, and they weren't even
Mm-hmm.
attempting to sting me.
Hmm.
So,
Well, they're happy. They don't feel they probably had lots of feed,
yep,
right? They had lots of feed in the package.
yep, and
And her
they,
pheromone has calmed everybody down. She got strong.
yep,
Maybe they were, maybe they were together for a while longer than yeah,
they
I don't
were
know. I
to,
haven't pulled packages in eight
well, they
years,
were
so
together a day longer than normal. So,
hmm.
because we normally, if we have extra packages, we dump them that same day. And we didn't dump them yesterday because it was cold. It was 22 degrees here last night.
Well,
And
They were drugged,
yeah,
Randy.
they were drugged.
that might be the reason, Bill. They had it overnight to settle down from the
Yeah, they had it
transport.
Yeah.
overnight in a nice warm place. And you know, we sprayed them down with sugar water before we put
Mhm.
them in there. And then
Nice.
they were sprayed this morning with sugar water. So, but typically you
And that's right.
have,
The queen's in a cage, so she's
yep,
not.
she's
I forgot.
caged. Yep.
Yeah, I don't deal with packages. I don't.
So,
I haven't dealt with a package in years and years and years. I forgot. I'm thinking her pheromone was.
and they've got
I don't
syrup
know.
in the hive box with them. So, and they attacked
Hmm.
that as soon as they got in there. So,
Get one free one every year
yeah.
for helping out. That's
Yeah.
my area.
But yeah, I'm looking at what I'm supposed to have from the 14th on, and I'm supposed to be in the 60s and 70s the rest of the month.
Well, Bill, back up. Do you have any more of those packages that you are you getting any more? Do you want to? I'll put your thing
No,
up.
I do. I
'Cause
do one
you're my.
day. I do one package date a year, and that's done.
Oh, that's done.
It's all done.
So for my viewers, Bill sponsors my channel. So in turn, then I, put his supply store up. So if anybody's interested or needs any bee supplies, Bill sponsors me. So on Monday nights when he's on and I'm talking about my channel, don't get excited. It's just because he sponsors me. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
But here's his information down there.
So I've got 70s the rest of the month and basically 40s at night. So,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, I got two 37s on the 15th and 16th, and everything after that is upper 40s, 50s, and 60s for the high
Yep.
after that. So it looks like I gotta go through about another week and a half.
Yeah, I got
Then things will start taking off.
3-4 nights in the 30s, and that's it. So,
jeez.
but next Monday it's supposed to be 70, and I'm setting up Cell Builder. So, two of them.
Yeah, next Monday I'm saying 64 and 50 at night.
Yeah, we're supposed to be 72 on Monday, and then afternoon thunderstorms.
Yeah.
And a cold
My
front.
phone, I can't get past Monday on my phone. Now my tablet will give me more days. The phone's old, but
Yeah. And then
will give me more days.
Then on the 22nd, we're starting to set up Cell Builders in the Queen Yard. So that's going to be fun.
This is such a tricky time because you're talking about putting the comb in there, and that's a great idea, but if you do that too early, you're gonna split that brood, and then you're not gonna.
2 and 2. As long as you got 2 brood frames on each side of that comb, you will not hurt. That's the key. Don't do it with 2 and 1.
No,
Don't always do
2
it
and
with
2.
just 1. Always make sure there's always 2 on the outside. That's why I said you got to have at least 4 brood frames.
Yeah.
2 and then empty, and then I gotta draw pictures.
That will
Draw
speed them
pictures,
up.
and then it puts it in.
That will speed them up also.
Yeah, it will.
You know what I really should do? I should drop some Apis. I don't think I even have any Apis biologic, but I do have liquid Hive Alive. I should put liquid on them. It's in the wrapping ground, so it stays warm. They'll feed off of it. It's not like not like a jar. I never do a jar with this fluctuation in temp, but that's what I should do, but I won't.
I'm still feeding a few of my hives with light sugar water, just because I haven't put the supers on yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah. So Sunday, because they're calling for rain here next 3 days. So Sunday, I'll probably put another super on everything. So
Yeah, I'll be putting
Now,
mine on
will you
Monday.
will you put will you under super or over super?
over.
I always over super. Too much work.
Some
It
people
doesn't do
under.
anything.
Yeah, it's too
You
much
know?
work to under super.
I don't see the benefit. I know
There's
some
no
No,
people say
benefit.
about it, and it's a lot of work, and I don't really see the benefit of it.
nope. The only way that I do an under super is if I want to create, say, let's just say I have two medium brood boxes. If I want to create a deep brood box, then I will put a deep on the underneath of the two mediums
Hmm.
so that
Right.
she has that deep brood box to lay in, and I put all drawn comb in.
Hmm.
So she'll go down in that deep and she'll start laying. And then I eliminate one of the mediums right after that and put a queen excluder on the top of
Yeah, Ryan. Ryan's got a show off here. Hi, Tiny Creek. Ryan and his bionic bees.
it. How many supers you got on there, Ryan?
Yeah. He's a little bit ahead of us.
Oh, I'm gonna push this
We,
button. Share your referral link. What's that mean?
Keith, Keith
What
Half
does that
Tracks is
mean?
not ready to pull
78.
supers.
That's cool.
It's 78 degrees. We've
Okay.
had
Tell me what
one.
you
We've had 2 days set about 78 degrees so far.
you got 78 supers. No, how many on each colony, Peabody?
Yeah. If
You have
he's got 78 colonies, he's got seven. He said 78, so he's got one super on each colony.
oh, okay. I gotcha. I gotcha. I didn't remember what he's running, what he's up to.
Yeah.
Uh, Matt and Sandy, I think
Oh, two
he's
supers are drawn comb. Okay.
oh, two super. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
I think Matt is running, I think he's at 100, trying to get to 100. I can't keep track of you guys anymore.
Yeah,
Too many of yous.
I'm trying to stay at 23. That's harder. Harder to stay at one at the same size
Yep.
than keep growing. That's
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah, we know how to grow, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to grow.
It's easy to grow, I know, right?
You really learn how to beekeep to make when you start maintaining the same number.
Yeah.
That's a
Well,
whole nother.
that's what I did for 7 years is I just grew and grew and grew and grew and I was up to 53 hives. Was still working full time then too, but it wasn't a good 53. It wasn't a healthy 53. So I had to back down. And now I cleaned out some of my poor genetics that I should have done a while ago. Should have done 3 years ago, say.
Right.
Um, so now I'm gonna be back to it's good clean comb though. The comb's clean. They pull a lot of comb for me over here. But so now I would like to build up to about 25, maybe 30 good, strong, healthy colonies. That's kind of where I want to go into winter in 26. I like to be 25 or 30 colonies. Good, strong.
Well, see,
Right.
there's something else that people don't really think about when they're expanding and growing is they need to think about the forage in the area. how
Yeah.
many colonies will that forage handle?
Exactly.
And that's going to
And I did
dictate
enough for
how many
53.
hives you can have in any one bee yard.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You
I've got
can
to
think
move
in
a
your
yard
head,
now.
oh, I want X amount of colonies in this yard will hold. You can think in your head physically, but unless you're looking up into the trees, you won't know until the second year, first or
Yep.
second, or sometimes I guess you
Third
learn pretty
year.
quick, but it might
Uh,
take a couple years to figure that out.
yeah, I've got a yard that I have to move because they started clearing near it and it's
Mm,
taking forage away from them. So I got to move the bees out of there. Not because they're clearing, but because they don't have as much forage. So, and Ryan with Peabody, yeah, requeening will definitely make your bees stronger. And if you're requeening every other year, that's great if you're doing that.
Yeah.
This year is my year to requeen.
Yeah. I'll be requeening too. I'll be grafting a lot early June.
Yep. Get rid of those 3 year
wow.
old queens.
See, I don't even have them last 3 years. Mine, I get rid of them before in some way. I just sell them off.
I
There's such
I
a demand.
requeen
There's so
every
many.
other year.
Chester County. You were talking, Bill, about Chester County, which is kind of next southwest of me. They have 700 people in their bee club. 700. So you
Um,
think that a third of those beekeepers aren't even in the club. So you're looking at 1,000 beekeepers. So that they'll drive. Now they're not. It's not close enough for my bees to visit them. But so then Montgomery County has about 400 registered, in the club. So they probably have about 600. But that's the pool of people that will drive for a mated queen. That's
Wow.
the amount. That's the population of beekeepers here. So
That's a lot of
you know
beekeepers.
yeah.
it is. Oh, it's huge. But that's how I can just, you just move out your queens. They want a mated queen. So you just move them out. Requeen. No, Peabody, I do not. There's no Amish here. We're Mennonites here up in this area, but no Amish. I'm too far northeast for Amish.
Wow.
I do requeen all my swarms too in the summer solstice time,
Yeah.
just because I don't
Oh,
know their genetics. Unless I catch the swarm from my brother's farm, because those are Amish queens, and they got
yeah.
good genetics.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't
We
live
were talking
close enough.
about that Friday night or Monday night. It was either Monday or Friday. We were talking about the same thing, and we
Yep,
was there a queen on the bottom of it, Tiny?
most probably.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with this. He took the bottom board and shook it into the
Yeah,
box.
they
I'm
had bees congregating under the hive,
Oh,
That
she
and
flew back. I don't know where he's at, but the queen probably just missed and flew under. Is it a screen bottom?
yeah, it's a screen bottom, but they were installing them. They were installing a nuke, and then all of a sudden these bees started hanging on the bottom of the hive. So we're thinking about
Oh,
when they moved the frames, the
queen fell
queen
off.
dropped off or flew off
yeah,
onto the
yeah.
landing board and then went underneath, and then these bees went under there with her. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right.
no,
And you
Randy, I
get
don't sell 3 year old queens.
when you have swarms a lot of times, and if they fly into a box that's hanging in a tree or stuff like that, a lot of times that queen will miss that opening and go underneath the swarm trap, and
Yep.
you'll have the whole cluster underneath the swarm trap.
Yep.
And then people go, "Why didn't those bees go in?" Well, because the queen's not in there.
Have they come back out yet, Tiny Creek, or are they all staying inside now? No more bees outside. All right, I read your other post. You're good.
Yeah, she's inside now.
Yeah, she's in the box.
Oh, hey, Philip. Hold on. Philip's there. I had to go plug in my Philip.
There he is.
I
Hey,
thought
he's
you were
not in the
gonna
shop
leave.
either.
I thought
He's
you were
not.
gonna
He's,
leave me in
And
he's
purgatory.
walking to the shop.
he's
No,
not
I had to go
building
get my
anything.
I had to go get my cord to plug in. I didn't even see you down there. We're so
I was.
excited.
I'm just coming home from work, so yeah, you want to take a little show and tell? We've been busy around here.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Hold on. Let me figure out how
Let me
to.
see
Hey,
here.
go
I go
for it.
more. Let me
And
get the.
Randy, quit yelling at me. Look, he's on all caps. Quit yelling at me, Randy.
Let me get the camera turned around here.
But the 3-year-old queens, no, the queens don't make it. There's just 1 year. The queens I sell 1 year and then they're gone. But anyway, go ahead,
Yeah,
Philip.
that's what mine are.
Okay.
Oh,
Overwintered queens.
Y'all get to see my messy yard. So we've been making queen nukes. Let's see. We got. Y'all see that? There's a 10 two-framers there. One goes one direction, one goes the other.
oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yup.
Okay.
Okay.
We just put queen cells in those yesterday. One's our bees raised. These 2 boxes were full of resources that we brought back from the farm. We brought them back on double screen boards to give them some ventilation. Those had a little death in them. These did good. But yeah, we brought back 20 frames of brood, but there was no food down at the country. Here in Capel, we've got they're almost honey bound. They're bringing in so much. So we started putting supers on these. But about a week ago, we went in and found queens. Like right there, the queen is above her hive and turned around. In that case, the queen's on the bottom, and the regular hive's got a super on.
What kind of tree is that, Philip? What kind of tree is that in your yard there?
That's an oak
Oh
tree.
no.
About to get stung. These are mad. We've been really messing with them the last few days. All right, leave me alone.
Are you getting run out?
He's getting attacked.
All right.
Yep.
He's got killer bees down there.
Actually been really nice. I moved my bee. We're
losing them.
So
Yeah.
there's a queen on the bottom, and they're making a queen in the top of that one. They're making a queen in the bottom of that one. We harvested cells out of those 2. All we did was cut the cells out. This morning we this is our starter finisher hive on the top, and then their queen is on the bottom. We harvested all the cells out of here, made them queenless, and then we grafted and put. We got 28 grafts in that one. Our first attempt of grafting. So wish us some luck.
Good luck.
And then let's see. Yeah, the top of that one actually has 3 jars of feed in there. So there's 3 different compartments there. Each of those have 2 frames and a queen cell.
Right,
Same
three-way.
thing right there. Yeah, 3-way. And then when we were going in and finding queens and removing them, we started the one in this position. We started seeing a bunch of cells, and I was like, these things are swarming. And I got to looking at the brood in there. I was like, no, they're not swarming. We accidentally killed their queen like a week before. So they were just
Oh geez.
placed. So all I did was I took them and I actually made 5 splits off of them. So what you see here at the bottom is the bottom board facing our way, and on the other side is facing the other way. Same thing over there on the bottom below that the other one. There's two there with queen cells, and then the 5th one I got up here. They're flying in and out. So I tried to turn one. I tried to make lemonade and made 5 colonies out of one. So anyway, that catches you up a little bit on what's going on here in Capel.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
You're
exciting.
busting at the seams.
It's exciting. Oh my gosh, we hadn't cleaned up anything. You know how when you get to working bees, you just start throwing
Yeah.
stuff everywhere.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got to get back at it. Oh, you okay? Well, let's go look in the shop since y'all mentioned it. Because it's definitely not.
You're in full beekeeping mode.
Yeah, I took a break from building, but just before I went to the farm this past weekend, I built a whole bunch of swarm boxes. I hadn't finished them, but I got them started. You can see them stacked up. The reason they're
Oh,
all in
yeah.
here, the reason they're all in here is because it was raining when I was building them. So that cedar will really swell up on you if you let it get wet. So I didn't want it.
Oh
And
yeah.
I still gotta finish them up. So
So now, Philip, do you have to dip cedar boxes, or can you just leave cedar
no,
boxes be?
they're fine. They're just like having a cedar fence that you didn't stain. Matter of fact, that's what I have over there is a cedar fence. Let's see. I'll
So you
show
don't
you
have to
one
do
that's
anything to those boxes.
no, I don't have to paint them. I mean, if you wanted to, you could stain them, but I'm not going to. They just turn gray.
Right.
Here, let me see.
Why
There's
do you
one
work?
that's like
Why do
there's one that's almost 5 years old right there.
neat?
So they hold up pretty good. They hold up better than pine, that's for sure. Yeah.
Well,
So
yeah, they're a whole lot more expensive, right?
no, not really, because what I do is buy. I try to keep an eye out, and when they throw some ones that are split or warped a little bit at Home Depot, and they throw them in the 70% off rack, I snatch them up and I just save them up until I'm ready to build.
There you go. That's
Almost
the way to
everything I
do
buy
it.
is 70% off.
There you go. I have a
Some,
woman, I tend her hives down in the city, much closer to the city, and she has cedar boxes, but they're
mm,
still kind of red. Like they didn't, I don't know how old they are. Let's see, they're probably maybe 5 years old, I guess. But they still look like new. They don't look like red,
yeah.
but they're very protected too where they're at. So I don't know
Well,
how long
yeah.
it'll take them to look with her.
This is what you call the Western red cedar, which is it's not as red as the Eastern red cedar, I don't believe. But I will show you that most of mine that I built these other boxes out of are have been sitting outside in the weather, so they already started turning. But here, this is probably more like what you're used to seeing, Nancy. Let me see if I can. I don't know how good the
Oh,
light
let me
is.
put you on. Let me
Here,
blow you here.
let me hit facing back. Okay, so that's probably more like what you're used to seeing.
Yeah,
Sort of.
yeah, you're right. Yeah,
Now,
yep.
now this fan, this swarm trap, it'll have a piece around the bottom, so when they overlap, the bottom piece will overlap the one, and I can put screws and screw the two boxes together. But this is something I'm just coming up with, and it's like the deluxe model. Instead of staples, I'm using screws that are coated like deck screws, and I'm using the stainless steel
Mm-hmm.
entrance. And then new this year on all my boxes, instead of doing the little, just button them together and putting a piece of trim here, I'm overlapping. I don't know if you can see that, overlapping with an angle. Y'all see that detail
Oh,
right there? So I don't have.
yeah.
I'm not putting that piece on there. I'm overlapping that and trying to glue it as best I can. So little improvement. That's the deluxe. The economy model is over here. They've got the plastic entrances. They're just the galvanized staples, but they're also overlapped. So
You're running those the warm way. You're running
yes,
all those nukes the warm way. Now, you don't run
yes,
your colonies the warm way, right?
I do not.
Okay. Oh.
Usually when I bring them back and set them on the stands, I have to put a couple of little runners to set them on.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there's a guy, I don't know if you guys have heard of him, called Fishing for Bees. He does quite a bit of swarm trapping.
Mm-mm.
I may try something that he's done. He would put an entrance here and he'd put one here. Okay.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
then he claims, and I'm going to have to test it out. He claims that you can move them not very far. And all you got to do is close this one up, put them on your stand, and open this one up. He says them having to go out a different hole will make them reorient. And they
Yeah,
won't back.
that
So,
makes complete sense.
Yeah, it
That makes
does.
that does
I'm gonna
make sense.
I'm going to try that, because if I put them, if I close this up and let them out here, I can set this on my hive stand just like it would normally. I wouldn't have to. I
Mhm.
don't have to put little runners or anything. They just just set down just like that. So I'm going to try that. I thought it was a great idea.
Hmm.
Anyway, I'll have to report back to you how it works. But it's just a matter of drilling a hole and screwing on another cheap entrance. But
Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
that's what's going on here. I'm always missing your show, Nancy, because I never think about it early enough. And now you guys today came on. What time did you come on?
6:30. Well, 5:30 for you.
Okay. I didn't think you were coming
It's
on
your
until 6 o'clock my time.
No, it's 5:30 your time.
Tell you what, I might have to go
So
switch to the computer. We were trying to make a video of the grafting this morning and let my phone get down to like 12%. And then when I got to work, something was wrong with my cable and I never got it up to about 20%. And now I'm down to 10 again.
Mm.
So I'll have to get on my computer.
Yeah. Well, one of my friend beekeepers thought he lost the hive and closed it up 3 weeks ago. He went to put his package in that he picked up for me today. Found out it had
Yeah.
bees in it still. There's
Ah,
brood and
ain't that the
everything in it.
best?
And they
That's the
haven't been,
best.
and he's had them closed up for 2 weeks.
Oh, it still had them in there after 2 weeks. Wow.
Yeah. He thought it was a dead out. He scraped out bees out of it, but I guess he didn't. I guess they were down in a different box and he only did one box or something. I don't know. But that hive didn't die out.
He must have had a lot of food in there.
Yeah.
Is that like finding money in your pocket? I don't know. I don't think it's quite like that.
Well, $200 if it's a nuke. So yeah.
So
And he
That's
wanted
exactly what it's
another
like.
package because he had four dead outs, so now he's perfect. He
shouldn't
only
you
had
know
three
how
dead
many?
outs.
Shouldn't you
And he
know
got
how
three
many?
packages.
Shouldn't you know how many packages you bought? This seems like
He
it.
bought the four packages too. He bought more bees.
It was they're expensive enough, but I think I'd know how many I bought.
Yeah, really.
But yeah, it was really fun this morning getting ready to graft, because both me and Noah were like nervous as like expectant parents, trying to. I was forgetting stuff, forgetting to turn the camera on. Just couldn't. It was crazy. I tried it like my first summer, and it was an absolute disaster. Didn't have any idea what I
Yeah.
was doing. So I don't
How
even
many
like to count
cells?
that. What's that?
How many cells did you graft?
We grafted 28.
Okay.
I grafted
Hopefully you
10.
get 26 at least,
No.
or 25 at least.
Noah and I are both agreeing that if we can get between 5 and 10 on this first round, we're going to be happy with it. So it was
Yeah, 50% would be good.
Yeah,
At
even
first-
if you only get one fill, that's a win.
Success.
there is one thing that could have gone wrong, and we'll find out in a few days. We brought back those 20 frames of cap brood as much as possible to put in the splits, but we only used 16 of them. So I said, well, we need to beef up our cell starter. So we put the 4 extra we had in the cell starter. There's a possibility there might be a little open brood on that one, on one of those 4. And so we're going to go back in a couple of days, 3 days, and check them, see if they're trying to make sales. I said, it's possible they could ignore ours and go to those natural ones. You know,
They
but,
will ignore yours and go to the natural one.
Yep.
so there's a possibility that could. And I said, well, hey, if that happens, we're knocking those sales down and we're just going to try again. We're just going to suck it up and do it again. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
And then we'll know
That's
for
why
sure.
You can afford.
I set my cell builder up a week ahead of time just so I can knock them down.
Yeah.
Before
And
I
that's
graft.
well, our intention was to harvest all the cells out, which we did. There was only like 5 or 6. There was a few more than that, but sometimes they put those cells like right together and you have to cut them out as one. But
Right.
we cut all those out, looked real close, shook all the bees off, made sure there wasn't any there. But then when we came back at the last minute and added those 4, we possibly could have added some eggs and larvae. So we'll know. We're going to go in. I'm going to go in 2 days and see if they started any of our grafts. And if they didn't, I'm immediately going to go to those and see what's going on.
Yeah. You're good to go then. One way or the other.
Yeah, one way or the other. I'm not harvesting those cells. Those all came from the country, and there's a very good chance some of those are mean as hell.
Oh,
Yeah, where you're located.
But the ones we grafted from were just really docile. Now I'll tell you what. I don't know why. I had a plan that I was going to pull the frame with cells out and walk away and cut them out, but I didn't do that until the last one. It was a lot easier when you take it out and walk away and get away from the hive. Because after you get on about the 3rd frame cutting their cells off, they start to take offense to that.
Yeah, I bet they do.
I wonder why.
I don't know what the problem is.
Just stealing their livelihood, that's all. No big
That's
deal.
I said I was going to get off this phone. Now I'm down to 6%. Even if it dies, I'll jump on the computer with you guys.
all right, cool. My friend sent me a video today, and I never saw a video like this before, but she got herself tied in a knot because this guy, I forget what his name is, but he euthanized a swarm. He sprayed it with some sort of glue, a spray glue, and then sprayed it with pesticide, contact kill pesticide. And I believe so this guy knew what he was doing. Like, this wasn't a Joe Schmo. This was a guy that knew what he was doing. So my thought was, so my response to her was, because she's like, what's he doing? Why is he killing bees? And I said, well, I said, Arizona, I think, has 100% Africanized trait, right? Arizona's 100%.
No.
And then you get that
That's not
line, and
true.
I don't know if Philip is below that line, but there's this little line that goes across the bottom. And this
I'll
guy,
tell you what. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So they're
oh,
probably,
yeah,
probably a hot
he
hive.
euthanized this hive.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a hot one probably.
Not really. The guy she's talking about he goes by Killer Bee Guy, but he's what I call I name him the Bee Killer Guy. That guy goes
Okay.
in. That guy goes in, no matter what the condition of the bees in. He spends time off camera getting them really stirred up, and then he stands there and lets them coat his veil and says, "I would be dead if I didn't have this veil on." He gets everybody all worked up like it's all for show. That guy's a loser.
Sounds
So he
like
really,
it.
maybe he doesn't live where he wouldn't be euthanizing it.
No, you're believing the hype, Nancy, that all those bees are Africanized. That's not a true statement. They say that about Texas. The people that sell bees up north, sell queens, say that all bees in Texas are Africanized. I can go out there and put my hand on top of a couple of mine, and they won't even look the other way. The ones that come after me, there's a couple of them have a little bit meaner, but just like y'all have, in your yards too. But he says, okay, so he had a short. I don't subscribe to him, and I usually don't even click on what he's doing. But he had a short, and it was a swarm of bees hanging from a tree, which aren't going to sting anybody. Even if they're Africanized, they're probably not going to bother you. So he's there talking about those bees and says, yeah, these aren't so bad, but the one we got into yesterday, they were mean. But he went ahead and killed them, even though they were just as gentle as they can be hanging in that tree. And all the people were saying, yeah, you just killed a bunch of, bees and, gentle bees. And then he always responds back, bees are invasive species. We kill invasive species. That's his canned response to everybody.
Wow.
So, yeah, that guy's a jerk.
Yeah.
Thanks, Grayson. Yeah,
And you know
I
that
never even. I mean, I don't know.
there,
There's
Philip,
talk.
that's not true anymore. There used to be a North America honeybee.
Yep, it was.
They don't know what happened to it.
Yeah, they found that in Nevada, I think. But
Yeah.
fossilized. It was millions of years ago. It's a fossil. But anyway,
Yeah.
anybody subscribe to that guy? There's no way I would subscribe to that. He's got like 100,000 subscribers, though. He's got a.
I didn't even know. I didn't even know that sort of thing existed. Like I just never even thought about it. I mean, we'll get a new beekeeper, like a first or second year beekeeper, that'll say that, oh, they're so hot. We need to test these bees, and I got a hot hive, and they're just running around and causing a fuss. And then an experienced beekeeper goes over, and they're starving or something. There's an issue, and they calm them right down. So and I can't get anybody to verify what I'm about to say, but I can't get anybody to confirm it or say it's a hoax. But I was told years ago that the Africanized trait cannot live in an environment below 60 degrees for 60 days. And that's why you see that line go up and down, like from Florida. Now, there is some rumor a guy in Florida always has hot hives, but I don't buy packages. I'm not part of that conversation, so I don't even know. But
Well, you don't
has
buy
anybody heard
packages
that?
from Florida to start with.
Hmm?
You don't buy packages from Florida to start with. Most of your package bees come
Yeah.
out of northern Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know, guys up here run trucks. They run up 200, 250, 300 packages in a truck, and then they, sell them. And but like I said, I'm not part of that world. I don't buy packages. I don't have anything to do. But I will go when someone says they have an Africanized, and then they go and test them in Beltsville, and they never are. Like they're never. It's always the first or second year beekeeper that talks about these, nasty hot bees. But
Right.
mine are calm as kittens, unless there's a situation. Oh, their Philip died. Um, yeah, I mean, every time I've had one hive that just wouldn't settle itself over 2 years. I didn't treat it and didn't feed it, and it just hit its demise. But other than that, my bees are gentle. I can work them in a skirt. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
But I'd love to hear someone talk about that Africanized trait. 60
There
days.
is a map that is available online that shows the areas of the country that have been infiltrated by Africanized bees or bees with Africanized traits.
Put that up, Bill.
Huh?
Can you put that? You can
me-
you can share that, right?
Yep, let me find it.
Or I can, but I think that'd be interesting because with everyone buying packages now, or not everybody, but the market for packages is now. But learning a little bit about where your bees come from, and maybe finding a local nuke or whatever your situation is, education, I believe, is the more you learn about it, the better your choices will be, more informed,
Right.
best
It's
informed
just
choices.
It's just like Russian queens. People say Russian queens are so mean. I've never. I run pretty. I had some Russian queens. I mean, I had 8 of them at one time. And the only thing I noticed that when you open up the inner cover, a dozen of them will fly out. They'll just kind of hover around the top of the box and fly right back in. As long as
Hmm.
you just open it up, step back for 30 seconds, you can work the hive just like any other hive. They're a little flighty at the very beginning. That's it.
It's just the fresh air, just taking off the roof makes them kind of like, whoop, what's going
Yep.
on?
Pop
What's
But
out,
going on
yeah,
up there?
and they fly right back in.
yeah, and banging. I see, or I'm in yards where they're banging the inner covers and banging this and banging
Oh
that.
yeah,
You don't,
right.
you don't need to bang at all ever. Like,
Yeah, vibration is actually that aggravates them.
yeah, so if you think you got, you're talking about having a hot hive or you're having feisty bees, well, how much banging are you doing? Or working working on a hive that you haven't opened yet and you plan to open next. You cannot use that as a table,
Right.
put all your stuff on as you're working on one hive and then go and pop that lid. They are gonna get a little feisty. Good enough backyard. Hey, hi, Mr. Connecticut. What are
I
you
bet
seeing
you
up there?
haven't much beekeeping yet. Not up there.
Oh, here we go. Here's Bill. Let's see what we got here. We're talking about full screen. Now, what do I do here?
This is the 2024 map.
I don't
I'm
know if
trying.
I can make it bigger.
I'm trying to make it bigger, and I can't.
Yeah.
But if you look at Florida, right
Oh,
here,
here we go. Here we go.
Pretty
Oh,
far south.
oh shit. Hold on. I just did something. Okay.
if you
All
look at
right. Can everybody
Florida,
see that? Yeah.
and then extreme southern Texas is really bad, but
Yeah.
it's not so bad up in here, right? Louisiana along the Gulf Coast.
And that's where our buddy Joey again is. Me
Yeah,
again, Joey.
yeah.
And Dirt Rooster
And
and Mike
then
Berry.
New Mexico along the border, and then a little bit of Nevada and Southern California. And you see there's nothing in Georgia,
Yeah.
nothing up the
Or
East
Mississippi.
Coast.
Or maybe yeah.
It's right along the Gulf Coast is where it's at.
Yeah.
Now let's see where Arizona. So Arizona is, I'm
This is
seeing it's dark.
Arizona right here.
We can't see your screen.
Oh, well,
I don't know if you can
if you
see.
look at California and Nevada, it's a state right to the right of them.
There you go. Yep. Now that looks like it has colors on the whole thing. What are those colors? That purple, that light purple and dark purple. What does that mean?
Those are the years that they came at where the bees were found in certain years, and it shows how far they've migrated. Like
Oh,
2006 is a gold color.
okay.
There's a little bit of gold in Florida, a little bit of gold in southern Arkansas. There's no gold in Texas. There's none in New Mexico, none in Arizona, and none in California. The yellow is 2003.
Oh,
And there's a
wow.
little bit of that in California and a little bit of that in New Mexico.
Okay. So
And
that's
then
20 years
Texas.
ago. That's 20, 23, 22 years ago. Where
yeah,
is the current?
that is the current map.
Ah,
Yep,
okay.
that is
Definitely
the
is a
current.
warm
Put the
weather
site for that in the chat.
genetic.
Put the site for that in the chat. Let's see what happened here.
I
I don't
can.
know. There you go.
I'll post it if I can.
Yeah, you could just cut and maybe you could just drop it right in because I think people might be interested in that on their own time. Like I
If
couldn't
you
see.
can't,
There it is.
there you go.
And then there's another map. There's other maps that are published, but this gives you by county. This there's a map here up through 2009.
So Philip's got a point. Let's see what he says here. I'm guessing this map is a little skewed by reporting. Check out that line between Arizona and New Mexico. Bees stopped cold at that state line.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, you probably got a
Couldn't
wall
see it that
bill.
well.
Oh my goodness.
Gotta be a comedian.
But everybody swears that you get bees out of Georgia, you get Africanized bees. No, you're not.
Yeah. No. They say that here, but we don't. They get some hot ones out of Florida, but I think a little time up here and they requeen or someone knows what they're doing with them. I think they're just fine.
Yeah, they're fine. It's just you get somebody that, like you said, gets a hot box of bees and they think, oh my God, I got these packages that are Africanized. No, it's not.
And they don't treat them right.
Right.
I think nasty bees are more the beekeeper than the bees myself, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, me too. So
I got a feeling they run. What's this? Yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah, they do.
Now most of our packages up here come from Georgia. There is a big guy, there's a big commercial guy here in Pennsylvania. He
Yeah,
used to
house.
be, and I don't know if he still is, but he has hives in Florida.
Yep.
I don't know if he still does bring them up from down there or not, but
Yeah,
like
I know where
Charlie,
mine
Right,
come from.
almost all of them come out of Georgia.
Yeah.
Some out of Alabama, a little bit northern part of Alabama.
Yeah, but you got to watch who you get them from in Georgia because sometimes you'll get them just coming back off pollination.
Yeah.
And then those are the bees, the later in the year that you get them, like if you get May delivery, you're getting bees that's just come back off pollination. Those bees are hot.
They can be.
Yep.
Yous guys. What's Philip saying? Yous guys. Did I say yous guys?
Yes, you do. It's a Pennsylvania thing.
Yous. Yuns. Yous guys. Oh boy, that's terrible. Such Dutch.
He
Sometimes I
found
do
he
catch
found his
myself.
charging cable.
Yeah, I'll say I'll have some Dutchy phrases. Yeah, starving bees can be nasty, you bet.
Yes, they can.
Or something that's messing with them at night, a critter or something, or
Yep.
ones that have yellow jackets or something after them.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. A high mite load, I don't know. That's kind of I haven't
Yeah, they
seen
get a
that
little.
yet. I hear it.
They get a
I
little
hear
testy.
about it.
Yep, they do
They
get
come
testy
from
with a high mite load.
They come from the almond fields. They got mites. I got high mites in them
Yep, they do.
because that is a mite breeding ground. The almond fields.
You know what? I wish Mark would come on. Let me text him.
He was
Mark
on
Miller.
Monday night. Yeah.
We need a little Mark. We need a little Mark to this.
Hey, Darren.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Ewans?
Yins and fish
Yens.
yins. Well, I say use guys because, 90% of the beekeepers I know are guys. So I'm always referring to use guys, you know. Oh, wait,
Guys
hold
and
on.
gals.
Philip, where I can't find the
The link I posted.
the YouTube. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. All right, Philip, I'm on it. Give me a minute to push buttons here.
Yeah, it's pinned to the top. That's how I got in. Yeah, it's pinned right on the top.
There, it's on again.
Oh,
All right, yeah, there it is. There's Darren. Hi, Darren. What are you seeing out in let's see. So Darren would be probably see, where is he? Darren is, I don't know, let's see if he's east of Harrisburg, he's about 2 hours from me. If he's west of Harrisburg, he could be up to 3 hours from me. Philip, you're black. You need to connect your mic and your camera. That's what it's telling me. There's Mark. Yay!
Mark's here.
I don't
And
see
now
him.
Mark
There
is,
he is.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
Yin's
think you were going to let
guys.
me back in. That's why I was
Well,
throwing as
you
many
didn't pop,
barbs as I
you
could.
didn't, it's,
I
well, it
was
said
banging on the
I
door.
couldn't.
Yeah, that link,
Rat, tat, tat.
that
So you
link,
found the cable.
when you get in, like in the middle of the chat, you can't scroll back through the comments all the way to the beginning. So I didn't see the
Right.
pin.
Now I got Mike. Hey, Spillman. I clicked Mark. You're in, but your camera and mic apparently aren't working, Mark. So if
I
you
don't
sign
hear
out,
him.
I'll sign you back in or do whatever you need to do. There he
There
is.
he is.
Hi.
That's because he's driving.
Well, he had some really bad weather down there, like tip your truck weather. So he might be making up time turning those
Yeah,
wheels.
he's not moving, so I
Keith.
think he's still frozen.
You frozen, Mark. How's that beagle, Keith? Haven't seen any new pictures of that beagle.
That's why Mark doesn't get on this early one. He's still working.
Yeah, he's still driving.
So my bees here in Capel are rocking and rolling. I went down to the country and the boxes are packed out with bees, but some of them were crashing from lack of food. And they were consuming their brood. They were uncapping and consuming fully developed brood. They're white, but they were fully developed bees, and they were consuming them and dragging them out, and dead bees all over the bottom board. It was starvation central. We fed a bunch of them, but I mean, if we turn around and get a flow with that many bees in the colony, they're going to blow the top off of it and swarm.
Yeah, they are.
It's like
They're
a
gonna
thin
blow that
line.
high.
Do you think they were dragging them out because they were diseased, or was it sac brood, or what
It was
give us your idea of
the first one.
cannibalizing?
The first one I noticed, it was just they were lethargic. I was like, these bees are normally kind of hot, but they were just stumbling around lethargic. And I got in there, wasn't a drop of nectar, honey, nothing. So I got some food on them, and I went down and I got another one, and we were taking resources, so I was looking at the brood. I didn't want to put any diseased brood in my splits. And I got one of them, I pulled it up, and it was a bunch of perforated cappings. The first thing caught my eye. Now look a little further over, and it looked like a little bald brood. And then it was like half bodies of bald brood. They were just chewed them down as far as they could reach into the cells. It was carnage. It was horrible.
Yep.
And when I got down in the
Yeah.
bottom, there were dead brooding bees all over the bottom board. So I finally just determined that they've got to just be starving. It'd been raining for about 4 or 5 days, and I don't think they had much
And if
going
they're
into that
big,
rain.
if they're big, they can't take that long in the spring. But sac brood isn't. Everybody has sac brood. I mean, sac brood isn't nothing to get worried about. But you usually see that early in the morning. They'll pull those out early.
The reason I knew they were
Or chalk brood.
consuming it, some of it
brood.
did look kind of gnarly, kind of did like dark spots in it. But I looked at it closer, and you had like in a patch about that big around, you had some of them you could see where the head was partially chewed off, and some of them where the head was completely chewed, and then another one with the body chewed halfway. So you could tell they were eating that brood out of those cells.
Oh yeah.
They were just feeding on it. And
So,
we found it.
So I got a question for you.
Mhm.
Was there any other damage to the wax? Because they want to cannibalize bees that they haven't put too much effort into. So they'll get rid of all the eggs, all the 5-day, all the way up. But was there any other damage? Like there was a critter in there or something?
I'll tell you what, I hope that particular colony had some eggs, and I'm pretty sure they did, because I found the queen and I split her off to let them make another queen, because I wasn't real happy with her pattern anyway. If I found a queen that had a really good pattern, I tried to just give them space and leave her alone. But if I found one that was spotty, I went ahead and pulled her out and put her in a nuke, so they have a better chance of getting a decent queen. But
because I know the cannibalization starts with the fresh eggs, so they'll consume fresh eggs the second day.
They may be queenless when I get back out there. Now that you mention it, but because when I found the queen and there's tons of cap brood, and I mean they're wall to wall cap brood. It wasn't like they consuming all of it. They couldn't consume all of it. But the first colony I opened up looked like remember those colonies Charlie opened up a couple years ago where we were like, how are all these bees fitting in here? That's what they looked like. It was like within just a second, there was like an inch of bee coverage. You couldn't even see the frame. So some of that's my fault. I fed them, and they probably didn't have anything they brooded up, but they didn't have anything to keep them going. But
I've just never seen them consume larvae like that in the hive. Like
I've never seen that particular phenomenon myself. To that severity.
Yeah, I've seen them open up queen cells and consume the excess queens in the cells.
Yeah.
But so about 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago, I just went in to look at a couple of hives here, and Noah had gone off to get coffee or something, or ride his bike. I think that's right. He was going to go on a bike ride, and all of us. I looked in there, and every cell either had brood in it or had nectar in it. It was in singles, and I just went into a panic. I texted him. I said, "You need to get home now. These bees are about to blow the tops off these hives." So we went and got an extra deep and just kind of pulled up a few frames of brood and gave them space. And then we said the next day, I said, well, we got to go do this in Crossroads, which is 20 miles away. And he said, we're going to partake any food? I said, no, they don't need food. If these are any indication, they don't need food. They need space. We went up there, and those bees were as dry as they could be. 20 miles away, no food. And I didn't have any food, and I kicked myself after I got back home. I should have just gone to the grocery store, bought a gallon of water and some sugar, and fed the damn things, because they all had feeders in there. And it's like, but I wasn't thinking clearly. So hopefully the rain stopped and they survived, but I won't know that until I go out again in another week. There's only 7 colonies out there, so it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, you can't think of everything all the time, you know? You think
Yeah.
about it later, like, oh, I coulda, shoulda, but sometimes
See
you
that
just can't think of,
that
especially in beekeeping.
that good enough beekeeping there. He's right, and I even thought about maybe they were pulling mites out. But I'll tell you what,
Hmm.
if they were pulling mites out of there, it was a big infestation. Now I did notice that a good many of those bees seemed to have K-wing. Their
Mm.
wings were
Ooh.
extended.
Ah,
You got a
I
high
don't
viral load.
I don't know if
yeah.
that's virus or do they do that when they're starving? You know, do they kick those wings out? And they might. I
Mm.
don't know.
The other
I'd like
thing
to
though,
know.
the other thing that makes me think it's not a mite problem is because they're not going to consume the brood
They're
if
just gonna pull it out.
if they're infected with virus. They're going to pull them out, but they're not going to consume it. He said that they were eaten. What'd you say,
Yeah.
Philip? They
They
were.
were eating the brood. They were eating it. Yeah, and it was not larval stage. It was pupa stage that they were eating.
That's starvation, mostly. I would guess starvation. Well, you're going to tell us later, but I would say
Yeah.
starvation because they're consuming the protein,
Yeah.
and they're
Well,
really starving because
you've seen
they've
how.
already ate all the eggs.
Yeah. Well, you can see
Yeah, I made you have no eggs.
when you pull apart when you pull apart boxes and the brood and the drone brood bursts open, they jump on that and eat it right away. And that doesn't even
Yep.
mean that they can be well fed and they'll do that. They just don't waste that protein once it gets
Well, right,
exposed.
because you're tearing it apart.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
When you tear it apart, they're going to go right at it. But I mean, if
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting subject because I never really. My guess is that it's not a hygienic behavior because they wouldn't consume.
Yeah, I don't think it was hygienic behavior. I really don't. Um,
Mm-mm,
the
mm-mm.
usually with hygienic behavior, you kind of they're a little more selective.
Yeah.
This was
Yeah.
just across the board in certain areas. Um, on the way down there, we saw tons of bluebonnets blooming on the side of the highway. So got really excited that we were going to have a flow. But like
Mm.
I said, we were at the end of a five. There was about a 4 day rainy period, and then there was a real cold Sunday. We wanted to get into them Sunday and get them set up for our splits, but it was too cold all day, and we didn't get in until Monday. And Noah and I worked all day long Monday till dark, and then we didn't get back home till after midnight on
Hey,
Monday.
wait, could they be chilled? Could you have chill brood? Could you have chilled
Mm.
that brood?
They won't eat it.
We had not been in them. That was the first time I'd been in
Mm,
them, and it was 70 degrees at that point. That was Monday.
no. Well, but they won't
And
eat
they would have.
chilled brood till.
There's no way they would have been chilled because there were so many bees in those hives. And
Right.
another one we found. They tell you to always look at the inner cover to see if the queen's on it. Noah pulled off the outer cover, which was telescoping, and laid it over. And he goes, "Oh, there's the queen." She had crawled through the hole of the inner cover and was on the lid, right where the hole is in the middle. And she was acting really weird. There was like a little droplet of what appeared to be honey right there next to her that they were eating. And so I had accidentally, last time I was in there, marked her blue because I was thinking that would take a long time to come around. And I realized this year. So I took my yellow pen and put it on the blue and it turned green. That was kind of cool. You can do that, by the way. So anyway, I marked her and she livened up a little bit when I handled her. But when we started looking into the hive, they were collapsing. They were very lethargic. There were dead bees on top of live bees. We got down to the bottom board. Basically, the entrance was dropped blocked with dead bees. There were dead and dying bees all over the bottom board.
Were
So
there any food in the boxes?
no, they were completely dry. We went and that one
I'm
we gave
dry.
them a gallon of feed right away.
Yeah.
You might have saved them by doing that.
Maybe.
Yeah. You had starving bees. That cold day probably killed everything, all the flowers.
Something ran that queen up through the inner cover.
Yeah.
That's weird.
He was trying to get away from the carnage. It was
I'm
awful in there.
my vote still is there's a critter in there. I don't think it's parasitic mite syndrome, but I mean,
No, it wasn't parasitic mite syndrome.
no,
Um,
that they won't let it get that far. They're pulling out. They're pulling out. You know, I don't know.
but
Interesting.
I do need to get some kind of a. I want to put a extended release OA treatment on there through the spring. I just hadn't gotten around to doing it yet.
I wanted to get a formic on in April, but I'm not even gonna. There's no way. There's no way I'm gonna get. I'm not gonna get my first formic on until the end of May. Last year I got on May 2nd. I had enough. I had enough to enough brood in there to knock them back or get a good under cappings kill on May 2nd and June 2nd. I did last year. I did formic was June
Yeah.
2nd or July 2nd.
What
May
was
2nd.
crazy about that the condition of those bees is when you opened it up and saw the number of bees, you thought, I got to get supers on these right away. This is crazy. But then when you dug down deeper, you realize they're going to starve to death.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're too big
Yeah, they're too big with not enough to eat.
didn't have enough food. Sounds like they got your Italians.
Some of them are, but not all of them.
Italians would do that. They'll starve themselves by getting too big.
Yeah.
But, you know, when I go back out there, I might be like the rest of these guys around the country saying I lost half my bees. We'll see. None
Oh,
of them were completely gone.
Yeah, I won't run Italians up in my area.
The other thing, despite the massive quantity of bees I went through, and we went through carefully about 19 colonies or 20 colonies, not one swarm cell, not a single one.
Hmm.
And tons of
they're not
drones.
ready.
Absolutely tons of drones. Emerging, walking around, they were everywhere.
Huh. Well, that's an indication of a strong colony, or it was a strong colony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The drones, you know.
Yeah. Sounds like they ate themselves out of a home.
Yeah.
I
That's what it
think they
sounds like.
I think they hit a spell of bad weather and
Yeah.
had too many bees to get through it.
Yep. They can do that. Only takes a few days.
Yeah. They had already had, like I said, like 4 days straight of rain and then a cold day after that.
Right. So they couldn't fly and get any resources for 3 or 4 days, and then you had a cold day. That's 5 days. That's enough to starve them.
Yep.
If they
I mean,
didn't have any
we would
food.
have been in a real bind trying to get these splits done if we hadn't had so good of we took a lot of the resources away from these Capel hives, the food resources, but they could handle it. They got plenty. Now
Capel is your home yard, right? And the
yes,
farm
yes.
is
Yeah,
how
it's like
far away is the farm in like distance miles?
it's 80 miles as the bee flies.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. So that's a
Yeah.
different, that's a whole different
Yeah, but the
ball of
the
wax.
yard that's 20 miles north is not quite as not the bees weren't dying, but they were really low on stores.
Hmm.
Yeah, but right around here, people plant tons of those ornamental trees, like those red buds were everywhere. We have those ligustrum trees. Look like a ligustrum behind Bill there. I don't know what that is. That some people call Japanese privet. Get those white flowers all over it. Those have been going crazy.
Mhm.
So, all these ornamentals that people planted that bloom a lot, there's a lot of hollies. People have hollies that are blooming. So I think that's the difference is there's, just some unnatural nectar sources out there for them.
Holly makes good honey. The right
Oh,
kind of
does it?
American holly.
The bees
Yeah,
love that
American
stuff.
holly makes good honey. I'm gonna put in about 5 or 6 of them here.
It's too early.
Planted 2 of them last year. They're small.
After we got through grafting, some nectar had dripped out of the frame that we had from the top, and that was the most floral stuff I've ever eaten. It was crazy when I tasted it.
Mm.
Hey, Philip, on your
Mm.
grafting, did you put a frame of pollen in your cell builder?
Yeah, I actually put the best one that was already in there, and then when I came back and looked at another hive, there was one that was like almost a whole frame on one side of new pollen.
Okay,
So I stole that and put it right next to the graft.
that's good. I was going to say that was the next thing I was going to say. Did you put it right where your graft is?
Yep, it's right there. It's
I'll
right
put
there.
one on each side if I can.
Mm.
All right, you're good to get. You're good then.
Yep. The only thing that can go wrong is if they find some young brooder eggs over
Eggs.
on those 4 that we added.
Yep. And that just means that you took that chance.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing I want to try this year. It's something I just learned in like the off season. There was a guy talking about different queen methods, and I thought I'd seen them all. But the one that he talked about that I'd never heard of was you take a shim, like an 1.5 2 inch shim, and put it above your brood, and then you just take another frame with eggs and lay it on its side and prop it up on give it some space, prop it up on some little blocks. And so they said they'll come up, and if it's queenless below, they'll come up to that frame above and draw those cells straight down in queen cells. And you can cut them off real easy. So I told Noah when we got through with playing around with grafting, I want to stick one on there just like that, just to see if it works. Be kind of fun.
You can also take your hive tool and smash the cells right where the eggs are.
That's called on the
To
spot, right?
make room
Yeah.
for the cells, queen cell.
That's called on the spot. I've seen that, but I don't know how well it works because I've seen people do it and they ignore them sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes they do use it. Depends on what you pick.
Hmm.
I'm not one of these people who say that emergency cells are inferior because I think the bees kind of know what they're doing when the queen's gone.
Yeah.
And when you look at an emergency cell, it looks inferior because it's shorter. Well, the reason it's shorter is because it goes out for a distance and then down. Now, that queen might have scoliosis when she comes out because she's raised in a bent cell, but all in
The
all,
only time they might say that is sometimes if you do it the wrong time, you could only have the best they have is a 2 or 3 day old
yes,
and then that's going to be not a very good queen.
I agree
I
with
think
that.
they call them panic. I think they call those panic cells when they panic and they
Yeah.
try to make something. When they know they're going to supersede or emergency. It's not quite a panic. I heard of the being called a panic,
Right.
But
where that's an inferior.
yeah, in most
That's the only
cases,
reason why they make that comment on emergency cells. Could be
but
a
that
bad
emergency
one.
cells, it's always going to look shorter than one that you grafted or a supersedure or a swarm cell.
Yeah, it's always smaller.
Mhm.
Looks
It's not
smaller.
really, but the queen's not necessarily smaller. It's just that part of her is in that horizontal position
Yeah.
Right.
because there's 3/8 of an inch, about roughly, of horizontal before it turns down.
Yep.
Man, I'm tired tonight. I shouldn't be.
Yeah, I'm going to shut it down at 8:30.
Well, I'm gonna get out there and build stuff when you shut it down.
Yeah, because it's only what, 7:30 for you.
Only 7:30 here.
Yeah.
Well,
I haven't
Nancy,
gotten
Oh,
into
it's
my
still light
spring.
outside.
I'm gonna kick
Oh
out
yeah,
because
not here.
I've got bookkeeping to do tonight. So y'all have a good evening.
Have a good
It's
evening, Bill.
dark and cold.
Yep.
Good
I'm
night,
not
Bill.
into my spring mood yet.
Night, Phil. Night,
Good night.
everybody. See y'all Friday night
Good night,
with Charlie.
Phil.
See you Friday.
Yeah, it gets to be the chats get to be pretty, some of these guys are on 3, 4 nights a week. It gets to be pretty much. I know
Yeah.
Philip and Tom, you guys are too, but
Yeah.
oh, we have a
can-
sheep
we can-
keeper here. We have a sheep
we can,
keeper
Sarah.
on. Sarah,
Tom and
hi
I can
Sarah.
pick and choose when we
Sarah's
come
here.
on, though. We don't have to stick to a schedule. Although Tom
What's that?
launched his live last night. I remember that.
Last night.
I was watching that car swerve all over the road. That was fun.
Now, Philip, behave.
That's what we
I
come
didn't
here
know
for.
Tom was even on. I would have come on and helped steer that right into the ditch, but I didn't
People
I
don't,
didn't even
people
know
don't,
you were.
people don't watch NASCAR just for the speed. We love to see the wrecks too.
I'll never let you live down my first live, Philip. When you said about a train, you said, "Oh, I'll come on and watch the train wreck." I thought, I was so mad at you. I was mad at you for like 2 weeks.
You gotta get. Hey, there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Yeah. Next Tuesday will be a little bit better. I even got a subject for next Tuesday.
And see, now, Nancy, we can all say we remember Tom's first live when he's like this professional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wish I would have known.
Well, it was like 7:45, and I said, "Oh, yeah, that's right." I told everybody when Charlie said he couldn't go till 10 o'clock or so. I can go at 8. And so
It
I
takes a
jumped
lot.
on real quick and tried to teach myself in 5-10 minutes.
It takes a lot of guts.
A
I've
lot
never
of
done it
buttons.
without somebody like Lee in the background pushing
Well,
and
I
Yeah,
had
there's
it
a lot of
going by
buttons
the
to
end,
push.
and I was even kind of doing it backwards.
see Nancy. She's a woman, so she's gonna figure it all out before she ever sticks her neck out there.
Yeah,
And
I jumped in with
Tom's
both
like me.
feet.
It's like, well, just run into the room. I'm here. Oh, now what?
Well, yeah, when I signed on today, it said I went to go put the little, sign in chat over on YouTube. It said that I wasn't connected to YouTube, that it
Yeah,
somehow got deleted. So I had a panic there trying to figure that out, but it worked. I don't know. You just push buttons until it blows up and then you
That's right.
just go. What do you want, little dog? What do you want? Huh?
yeah. So next Tuesday will be a little bit smoother. Maybe I'll have a drink while I'm there. That'll help. I drink nothing but non-alcoholic stuff now, mostly.
So Keith had asked me a question here. I watched your video. Do you transfer a young swarm to a nuke or a 20 frame? Well, it just depends on the strength of it, Keith. Now, if you're talking about a swarm I catch in a tree, you can kind of tell just by the size of the ball of the bees what you need to put it in. But when I catch one in a box, I generally pick it up and see how heavy it is. And then I start getting ready to transfer it that way. But if it's small, I just transfer it into half of a 10 frame. I put a divider in the middle and transfer it to half of it. And I might
Yeah, I'm
transfer
about the
another
same
small
way.
one on the other side and have 2 5 framers in that one box.
most of the first swarms that come out are big ones. They usually go in 10 framers, and
Right.
then towards the end of the swarm season, you get those birds and queen swarms. They usually go in nuke boxes.
Yeah, that's the best way I can answer
Like
that.
a
I'm just
five
not,
frame or a five frame. Well, it depends. It depends what you transfer young. Depends what you put it in when you hive it up. You know,
and
how
I
big is
have,
it?
and Keith, I have gotten everything set up and opened them up and changed at the last minute and moved everything and put different equipment
Oh, yeah.
down. That happens sometimes.
When I get a
Or
Sometimes
if
call
it's
though,
to
big,
the swarm, I take
the
out
other
nuke
thing,
boxes and a 10 frame because you never know.
Mhm.
if it's a really big swarm, you can put undrawn comb in there, and then
Oh, I
that'll
do.
that'll
Yeah.
keep them busy till you can figure it out.
That's usually all I have. So, but
And
I
it
think
that's the best. I mean, swarms are the best for building comb, man.
I
Sometimes
think
I
it's
wish I had a swarm just so I could get some new, fresh drawn comb. But yeah, if you put them in a five frame with undrawn comb,
unless you, yeah.
that'll
I think that's the smartest move to do that anyway, unless you thinking, okay, maybe these will make me a little bit of honey. Then you might think about getting
yeah.
them some. But I would, I'm like you, Nancy. I want to take advantage of that uh,
Right.
strong
Yeah, all
impulse.
you got is undrawn. Well, then you got time then to if you put them in a five frame with undrawn, about a week. I mean, I
You
wouldn't
got,
go
they're
longer than a
drawn.
week checking them. You could put another five frame on top, pull some more,
Exactly,
and then drop
exactly.
them straight into a 10. I
Yeah.
Yeah,
mean, or
it's
just
Yeah.
keep them
Especially
as a, you know what
even.
else I've done too is I've kept those once they pull the comb and start laying, I use those as resource hives. I'll take frames out of that and just plug them in other boost up other eight frame. I run eight frames, so just boost them up. You can do that.
Yeah.
you're warm enough too, Keith, where you can after they start to draw it out, you can actually pull those frames from the outside and put them in the middle. It's plenty warm where you are. Um, And what I've found is that bees, when they put that one frame of honey on the outside, sometimes they won't move it. Sometimes they're like they're bound to the middle. So I like to pull those all the way to the outside when they make those, and then I'll
Hmm.
start dropping the open frames between them.
Yeah, you need them on the outside for winter. But where is Keith Larmar? I
He's in
don't.
South
Where's
Carolina,
he
I
at?
think. He's in like a swampy area of
Wow.
South Carolina, coastal kind of
Yeah.
area.
He runs eight. Yeah, I run eight too. Um, and that's
Mhm.
why I mean five frames to eight
Oh,
isn't really. I'm gonna sell off some of my five frame boxes this year because I just don't need them. I just don't need them, and I didn't overwinter any of them this year. None of my five frames overwintered, but my eight frames, I mean, I overwinter them no problem. But five, I don't know. I don't know what the problem was.
Yeah. I kind of moved all my 5 frames for every winter to 12 frames.
Yes. Yeah, Larimar, they do use frame. They absolutely use honey frames for insulation.
that
Absolutely. And they also put their drones out there. Put
that
drones on the
confused
outside frames
that
too.
confused me when I first heard it that they used honey for insulation because there's so many other just air gaps. But then I realized, and if you've ever done 2-to-1 sugar syrup and got it a little too hot, it takes forever for that to cool off when it's thick like that. So
Right.
it's like a heat sink that just holds heat for a lot longer. So the
It,
honey does the
it,
same thing. Once they warm it up, it radiates the heat back to them during the
well,
cold
the
of the
same
night.
thing. It takes longer for it to cool down and or heat up.
Yeah.
It moderates the temperature in the box.
I
If it gets
find
hot
my
outside, it
my
slows it down. If it gets cold, it keeps it warmer a little bit longer.
Yeah.
my colonies will store frame for honey for insulation on the northwest sides before the east side of that configuration. So they're using it for insulation because the east side's going to warm up quicker. but they put honey in the back corner or the back side of that particular, however I have them facing. I kind of like rocks for snakes. What?
No, no.
Explain that one.
Yeah.
The
To
heat,
warm themselves on cold days.
yeah, the rock heats up in the sun and it radiates the heat back out at night.
Oh, 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 oh. Yeah,
So the
yeah,
snake will
yeah,
lay on
yeah.
the rock and stay warm.
Yeah.
Kind of like rocks. I gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah. I got a lot of snakes down in my yard. I like my snakes because they keep I can tolerate snakes, but I can't tolerate mice.
When I do my little talk next Tuesday, I'll be talking about those honey frames because they're an important tool for brood management.
Mm-hmm.
And
Drones. You want half
Well-
of those. You want half of those honey frames, or as much as they want, to be drone comb, because they want the drones on the outside because that's extra resource, and then they want to backfill that with honey, and now you got even better insulation because you got more
I
honey
use it for brood man.
itself.
I use them for swarm management during the springtime. And I'll explain that Tuesday.
I'll be there if I remember.
Yeah, we remember.
I'll
have a notice
remember,
out.
Tom. You've supported me a lot, whole bunches. So I'll be there for you on Tuesday.
What time is it,
Right.
Tom? What time Tuesday?
8
7.
o'clock. Well, you're 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
8 o'clock
That's so
Eastern.
late. I wish
So you're the one-
you guys would move them up a little bit. 8
Well,
is too late to start
Then
a
the
conversation.
Central and the Mountain and the Pacific people, it's way too early.
Yeah. Yeah, you're the warm up act for Bob's show, huh?
Yeah. I'm filling in for Bob. Then when he gets on, I hop off. That's what we did yesterday.
What
I
time did
saw
Bob
his link
come on? He didn't come on till 10 or what?
10. I don't know. I didn't stay on
Yeah,
his whole time.
I'm sawing logs. This is getting late for me. Well, not in the summer. This isn't late, but we're not even. It's not really geared up here yet. So
So I'll go 8 to 10 on Tuesdays, most probably. And if Bob doesn't get on, I'll probably end at 10, 10:30. 10:30 at the latest. So
it's speaking of, I said I was going to shut down at 8:30, but or where are we? Is there who are they? Come on. Who else is on Wednesdays?
Stream team.
StreamYard. Greg. Is Greg on?
Yeah.
Anybody see if Greg's on?
yeah, I saw a post on my phone.
Yeah, they probably came on
Yeah, I
30
didn't
minutes
see.
ago.
Yeah, they're on tonight.
Oh, okay. I gotta check all my nukes for mated queens this weekend.
Well, hopefully you got them.
Alrighty, well,
We had high
have it on-
success.
yeah, I wish you luck. I'm nowhere near that. I'm a month behind, or I'm a month out.
Yeah, I'm a few
That's
weeks out.
fair.
I could probably make splits now. And by the time the queens got to get the fly to get mated, it'd be good enough.
Well, the window for me, sometimes it's a month, and then it can shorten up pretty quick. And then,
Yeah.
that window doesn't ever make sense really, but I don't know. Maybe something will happen
Yeah.
and I won't be as far out as we did the math earlier to be.
Usually about the third week of April, second or the third week of April, depending on what type of winter and spring we're having. That's the end. We might have two more cold days, but it's just one. It's just one morning, and that's it.
So my season, my honey flow season, I know when the end is about July 4th, July 10th, but I never know when the beginning is. like my 7 years in this here, and it's the only location I really have. I mean, I have other locations, but by July 4th, July 10th, I'm pretty much, it is what it is. So,
A good way to check, Nancy? Check the hummingbirds migration. See where the hummingbirds are.
oh, I gotta
'Cause
write that down.
they were only travel north if there's a flow. So right now
I
they're
will,
still in southern Kentucky coming up. Last I
we
checked two
have a
days ago.
hummingbird. We have a hummingbird that lives here. Is it the same one? I don't know. But we do have a couple that are here at the house, so I wonder if it's
Already?
interesting. Hmm?
If they're already here, you got a flow.
No. Not now, but in the past summers, we have a
Yeah.
hummingbird. We see couple if it's the same one or if it's three or so, but no, not now. Oh gosh, no. Better not be here. But that's interesting to watch the hummingbird migration line. That's an interesting tidbit there, Tom.
Yeah, right now, let me zoom in. They're to Louisville, Kentucky, and they're up to Baltimore.
Hmm. Do you know how to share that, Tom? You can share it.
Yeah. I see that.
Hey, Dodd, we're just getting ready to shut down when we started talking about hummingbird migration.
Oops, I couldn't share it.
So down at the bottom, you should see set because you're in the studio. You should see settings or
Let
present.
me
Sorry. Click on present, and then when the window pops up, I have to click on it. Just make sure you don't have any naughty pictures.
I don't see that.
Present.
Oh yeah, I'm blind. Not a video. I guess it's an image.
And then
It's
you
a
pick on
website.
the tab, and then I'll see it
It's
on
a
my
link.
end, and then I click. James Knowles.
Invalid file type.
Just click on the tab. It'll say tab, and then it'll click on whichever tab you have it, and then that'll come through. Just do the tab one.
Invalid type.
Philip's in the
Well,
dark. I'm in too much light, and Philip's in the dark. Looks like you're in jail, Philip.
Yeah, I just didn't want to get up and turn the light
No, don't
fixture
worry
on.
about it. I
Let's see.
can't turn my if I'll either be in the
I turn
dark
this
or
way.
I'm in too much
There's the
light.
light coming through the door.
There he is. What's
let me see
James
if I can
cooking up
share a
there?
screen.
Coffee and donuts. Nice. James is having coffee and donuts. Here it is. Here it
Can you
is.
see that?
Watch this. Yep. Yep.
So that's the ruby hummingbird.
Ah.
Now it's really
So this,
small, but hummingbirds. Okay.
so if I go over to
Where's
your
Charlie
area,
at? There's Baltimore. Go north. So Charlie's up. That's their. Keep going north.
so the farthest
Really?
they've gotten is Philadelphia. And when you see one or two that's way ahead of them, that could be
Yeah.
false reporting.
Yeah.
Looks like they're Baltimore, but they're on
So
the coast, so it's a little bit warmer on the
pull that
coast.
in. Oh wow. Oh
But
wow.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
so
true
my
because
area, they've only made it to Louisville. Few.
Back out again. Wow.
that makes
Look
sense
at
though
that.
that all that area up there on the East Coast and through Tennessee, they're way ahead of us on the bees too, and That's a
Yeah,
good
because
map.
they get the warm air off the ocean.
That's a good.
But you
That
can
is
see
so
that.
interesting.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
Peabody's over there near Charlie, like Baltimore-ish, like and Jason Cook from the Dial Queen Right Dial guy. They're all over there. But Ryan is ahead of Charlie for sure.
right. All right, I'm gonna close it.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks,
But
Keith.
I mean, when you start seeing hummingbirds in your area,
I need some
you know the
cigarettes
flow's
too.
on.
Marmore. I don't think you can just put money on books anymore. That could be, I don't know. He wants to
I
put
I
some
gotta,
haven't
money on
heard
your
I,
that
books,
I
saying
got,
in
I
a
Phil.
gotta
long
have some
time.
money on my book for smokes.
He's in Texas State. Oh man, that's some. I wouldn't want to be
Got-
there.
Bring me a cake with a file in it, Keith.
And then you'll be a cellmate. You'll be right in there with him. All right, guys, we're good.
All
I'm
All
right.
pulling the
right. Good
plug
night,
here.
everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Hummingbirds was the end.